you know, you have managed to reconcile the opposites, so to speak, in your work.
Yes, absolutely. My hope is that I can see myself as a bridge between two worlds, to somehow join the worlds of the paranormal and also of traditional medicine, because how much more natural can it be for physicians to be true healers and to be clairvoyants and seers also?
Yeah. And you know, I think if one goes back far enough into the history of the medical profession, and particularly the psychiatric profession, there was that union. The psychiatrists were like shamans in earlier generations.
Yes, absolutely. The underpinning of spirituality was there in medicine, but we have grown so far from that. Medicine has become so mechanistic and linear and rational that we've lost touch with the visionary side and the spiritual side of medicine.
Yeah. Well, you have been on quite a journey to arrive at the place where you are now, not only where you can practice simultaneously as a psychiatrist and a clairvoyant, but where you can write about it and speak about it publicly. I know it's been a struggle for you.
It has been. It's been many years coming for me to really feel comfortable expressing my clairvoyance and my psychiatric skills together, to really come out of the closet. But with Second Sight coming out, now I am really out of the closet and accepting all of the wonderful things that come with that, and also some of the criticism.
Yes. Let's go back to your childhood. I think really your story starts at a time when you first, or perhaps you didn't even notice as much as perhaps your parents noticed, that you seem to have some unusual abilities.
Yes, I grew up as a psychic child, and I had my first psychic experience at age 9, when I had a dream that my grandfather came to me to let me know that he was dying. Now, in the dream, I wasn't frightened at all, but when I woke up, I was very, very frightened, ran into my parents' room to wake them up, to let them know about the dream. And I said to them, Grandpa came to me in a dream and he told me that he was dying. They basically just looked at me and said, "Oh no, dear, you're just having a nightmare, that's all," and walked me back into my bedroom, tucked me in. The next morning, my aunt called from Philadelphia to let us know that my grandfather had passed on. So that was really my first psychic experience. It was quite disconcerting for me. My parents basically wrote it off as a coincidence, an eerie coincidence, but a coincidence nonetheless, and didn't make much of it.
And you know, if one looks in the annals of psychic research, that kind of an experience is actually rather common.
It's very common. As I've been talking to people around the country, they've been coming to me, telling me exactly similar experiences that we all have, and I think these experiences are our legacy, but we've just grown so far from the vision that we can't identify it as such.
The intriguing thing to me in all of this is that actually on your mother's side of the family there's almost a lineage, a history of these kinds of abilities, and your mother, who was a medical doctor herself, tried to protect you from knowing about that.
Yes, consciously withheld some information about my family lineage until she was dying 3.5 years ago. And we would then meet and she would tell me about my grandmother, who was a psychic healer in Philadelphia and a clairvoyant, and herself. She had psychic abilities and healing abilities as a physician, but never told any of her patients, nor did she tell me. And her sister, who's also a physician, who's a psychic, and her daughter, and her little daughter, who's now 9 years old, is already having psychic experiences.
So it seems to be the women in the family.
Yes, the women in my family, definitely on my mother's side. And so I really learned this in the past few years. Many, many missing pieces of the puzzle came together for me. Now, as a child, I never knew this. I had no psychic role models to draw on. I was very frightened. I grew up believing there was something wrong with me, that I had a shameful secret that I was trying to hide, or that I was somehow colluding in the negative events I was able to predict, because every event I predicted was negative, never anything happy. And I didn't know at the time that that was simply because negative events are easier to pick up on a psychic signal. They're just easier, and as I developed my psychic abilities, I found I could sense a whole spectrum of response.
And your mother, although she had these abilities herself, she must have implicitly or even explicitly understood that these are not socially acceptable things to talk about publicly.
Oh yes, her main fear was that if she encouraged my own psychic abilities, that I wouldn't fit in the world, that other people would think I was weird or crazy, and she said she wanted me to be happy. She felt that psychic abilities would impede my own happiness, so she didn't encourage it in me. And however misguided I feel that that was, she was coming from a heart-centered place with concern for me.
And maybe even an appropriate place given the social environment in which you grew up.
Yes, given the social environment that I grew up, but I don't think it's a good role model for parents these days to really not encourage their children. I mean, how different it would have been for me if someone would have come and said to me as a little girl, "Oh dear, you're just having psychic experiences, and this is a wonderful thing that you predicted your grandfather's death because you loved one another so much, and keep it up, and we'll encourage you."
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that.
We don't offer our children those kinds of role models.
Not enough, but we need to.
And in fact, as you came to learn, as you studied medicine and psychiatry, that even talking about these things, expressing an interest in these things in the old days was considered symptomatic of mental illness.
It is even now in the DSM-3, which is the Bible of the American Psychiatric Association, with every diagnostic criteria known to man in it.
Yeah.
Anything psychic is equated with psychosis, a symptom of mental disorder. And that's the only frame of reference that traditional psychiatry has to use to talk about it. So either as a symptom of mental disorder, or else alternatively psychiatrists see it as a sham.